welcome back to Money Talks with Mia. I'm Mia Lee, escort, stripper, CPA, and recovered banker. This is part 2 of 3 on sex worker taxes. I'm actually just going to format this as a bullet point list of additional considerations for sex workers filing taxes. I get a lot of questions about what's allowable as a tax deduction and what's not. I'm going to start with some really common examples of allowable deductions for sex workers. Allowable deductions are things like pleasers if you're a stripper, lingerie, condoms, sex toys, dungeon gear, anything used solely for work that you don't derive benefit from outside of work. I'm going to get into some more tangible examples when we go into what's not allowed a little bit later, but I want to talk for now about a home office deduction. If you work out of your home, as I do, you qualify for a home office deduction if you have duplicative space that is used solely for work. For example, I am speaking to you right now from a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment in Manhattan. My second bathroom and my second bedroom are my client in-call spaces. Because they are one duplicative, meaning it's not my master bedroom, it's not my master bathroom, because they're used solely for work, it's my client in-call, client bathroom, I'm allowed to deduct those as a home office. The way I do that is by taking the square footage of my in-call bedroom and my in-call bathroom, and then I take that as a ratio of the total square footage of my apartment, and that is my home office deduction. The reason I highlight the word duplicative is because you can never deduct space or items that you would have or need to live regardless of whether or not you did this job or a different job. For example, I used to live in a studio apartment. And even if I saw clients at home in my studio apartment, I didn't qualify for home office deduction because I would need a bed to sleep in regardless of whether or not I was seeing clients. And I would need a couch to sit on regardless of whether or not my clients sit on that couch. Similarly, if you are camming, you can never deduct your common space. I'm recording this video right now in my living room, and I would probably have a living room regardless of my job. As a result, I can't deduct any of my common area, even if my clients use that common space. I can only deduct the duplicative space that is my guest in-call and my guest bathroom. This goes for things like beds, couches, and closets. If you happen to do sex work that is filmed in front of or using these spaces, if they're not duplicative, the argument the IRS is going to make is that you would have those things whether or not you had this job, and therefore you cannot deduct them as a home office. Let's talk about some other common non-allowable deductions that people get tripped up on. Street clothes, jeans, designer outfits, shoes. You can't prove that you only use these for work, so you can't deduct them. For instance, this lingerie. This is my work lingerie. I only wear it for work, and obviously I'm a sex worker, so it makes sense that I would have lingerie that I only wear for work. Now, conversely, if I've got a pair of designer jeans in my closet, even if I wear those to go out to dinner with clients, I'm gonna have a really hard time proving that I only wear those to go out to dinner with my clients. As a result, street clothes as a general rule are not deductible. Neither are designer shoes, bags, whatever. Don't shoot the messenger here, but cosmetic procedures and surgeries are not deductible. I am crying with you here because I've spent close to $100,000 on different cosmetic surgeries and procedures, and none of that has been deductible. But there was actually a case in California where I think she was a stripper, she might have been a porn star, but she took the IRS to court over the deductibility of her breast implants and won. Hold on. She won because the court ruled that her specific breast implants were so large that they were essentially a fetish item. And they were so large that they caused back problems during her career, and they had to be promptly removed upon her retirement. And because of these specific circumstances, she was able to prove that she only derived work benefit from her large fetish-sized breast implants, and therefore that was an allowable deduction. Now, conversely, my very normal size breast implants are not deductible. Neither is my Botox or anything else that I do. Yeah, you're gonna tell me, well, I only get this because I work in this industry, but unfortunately we can't deduct it, neither can all the actresses and models that have these treatments, just not allowable. Now I wanna talk about the role and responsibility of professional tax preparers. Unfortunately, I've heard way too many horror stories. In fact, I started doing my pro bono work in this industry because I heard so many horror stories about unprofessional tax preparers who were taking advantage of my colleagues in the adult industry. First of all, you should be hiring a tax preparer that is either a CPA or an EA. CPA stands for Certified Public Accountant. I am a CPA licensed in New York. And CPA licenses are issued by the state in which you practice. I live and used to practice in New York, so my CPA license is issued by the New York State Office of Professions. EA certifications, I don't remember what that stands for, sorry, but they're issued by the IRS, and they're basically certifications to be tax preparers. Therefore, those licenses are regulated by the IRS. The reason you want your tax preparer to be either a CPA or an EA is because only a CPA or an EA can represent you with the IRS in the event that you are audited. Any other tax preparer doesn't have the proper credentials to represent you in an audit, so what's the point of hiring them? Another thing that you need to understand as a consumer of these services is that CPAs and EAs owe you what is called a fiduciary duty. That means that if I were practicing as a CPA for money, once I take your money and engage you as a client, I have a fiduciary duty, which means I have to act in your best interest in the capacity of my services. I can't make recommendations or do work or not do work to the benefit of my own financial gain or to the benefit of third parties over your financial interest. I have to put any potential conflicts behind your best interest as my client if I accept money for my services as a CPA. That's true for all CPAs. It's also true for EAs. If you hire a CPA or an EA and they end up being professionally negligent, not delivering services as agreed upon, if they end up in a few unfortunate circumstances that I've heard of from ladies around me, say taking your money and not filing your taxes, you can actually report that person to the Office of Professions or the IRS, depending on if they're a CPA or an EA. Let's just use me as a hypothetical example. Let's say you pay me $1,000 to file your taxes. I'm a licensed CPA, and then I don't file your taxes, and I give you a whole bunch of excuses. You can take those emails and you can file an ethics complaint with the New York State Office of Professions. And the Office of Professions, they don't care what you do for a living or if you're a sex worker. They just want to know whether or not I violated my professional obligations. And if I took your money to file your taxes and I didn't file your taxes, I did in fact violate my professional obligations. And I would be subject to disciplinary action, potentially even losing my license. I might have to pay some fines. I might even be ordered to remunerate you, the client, for the money that you lost as a result of my negligent services. I think realistically speaking, there are a lot of service professionals in general, lawyers, CPAs, doctors, whatever, who take advantage of our industry, unfortunately. And they just assume that sex workers are not going to report them for negligent services because we're a marginalized community. Unfortunately, for a few of these people, I have gathered the documentation for my friends who were clients, and I have reported a couple of CPAs to the New York State Office of Professions because I guess this whore is a loud mouth. I would say that if you encounter a service professional that is professionally negligent, you're not happy with their services, you feel like they've misrepresented themselves, they're professionally negligent, they're not fulfilling their fiduciary duties, first of all, don't hesitate to fire that person. Second, I would really strongly encourage you to make a complaint to the relevant regulatory authority that issues and regulates their license because that person maybe shouldn't be practicing. I want you all to remember that even though we're sex workers and this is a marginalized, stigmatized industry, we're still paying customers and we're still owed a professional service when we hire professional service providers. Never forget that and don't ever hesitate to advocate for yourself. I'm Mia Lee. You can take the girl off Wall Street, but you can't take the banker out of the whore. Drop me your comments, questions, and suggestions for future content, but wait until part 3 of my tax series.